I'm Dr. Jennifer Willet. I'm an associate professor in the School of Creative Arts at the University of Windsor, and I'm the director of INCUBATOR Lab, which is an art and science laboratory focused on the production of biological artworks. Bioart is the intersection of art and biology, or art and biotechnology. And what that means is that I'm an artist, I'm engaged in artistic methods, and my goals are artistic, but I'm often using as a media the life forms from the biological or environmental sciences. I'm also often using the tools or procedures or technologies of the hard sciences to achieve my artistic goals. So for example, the piece that we're showing here at the gallery is called the Lakes Algae Organ, and I am cultivating algae based on scientific protocols. I'm working with sterile technique to make sure that algae is not contaminated and doesn't grow anything and smell bad. And yet at the same time, I'm engaging in the aesthetics, and I'm interested in the aesthetics of that algae and the social and political content of that algae and the interspecies relationship of that algae to the viewer or to myself, the person who's cultivating that algae. I'm really interested in art and technology that involves living components, living organisms. And I think that after many years working in the digital sphere, I was really missing the vitality of the mark or the smell of making art and the handmade nature of making more traditional art-based objects. But I knew I didn't want to go in that direction. And when I found bioart, I found that there is the viscosity of life that is energetic. And for me as an artist, and also as the viewer of someone who's interested in art and technology, I find the vitality of that aliveness really energizing in comparison to maybe more virtual works. The things that I wanted to do as an artist are so wide that I can't always do them all myself. So it occurred to me very early on that unlike the sort of myth of the modern artist who makes everything themselves by hand, that I was going to need to collaborate with people in a variety of disciplines to achieve the types of things that I wanted to do. And one of the models that I use to understand my relationship to projects in that way is maybe a film director, right? Like a movie director does not necessarily have his or her hand on every little object and with every actor. It takes a group of people to come together to achieve a vision. And you have to sort of trust people and their knowledge sets to bring that information to your vision. Artistic methods and scientific methods, on the one hand, are very different, but on the other hand, there's some areas where it's very, very, very similar. There's something about the activity of removing oneself from sort of some daily activities and meditating on one question or object that both artists and scientists do. There is a moment of inspiration, I think, that both artists and scientists share. I think that one of the biggest differences between what artists and scientists do is that what they do after that moment of inspiration. So a scientist then will have an idea or a hypothesis about how something might work and then engage in a variety of sort of objective strategies to see whether or not they can prove that's the case. Whereas an artist is not interested in creating repeatable results or objective results in any way. And so I think that at that moment, those practices diverge. As a culture, we've siloed ourselves into disciplines where we don't really talk to one another, and it can allow for a great deal of misunderstanding between disciplines, but maybe even long-term investments in ideas that could have been read from a different perspective very early on if you'd asked someone in another field. So when I go and work with scientists, quite often they don't expect to get a lot out of the project, and they contribute an enormous amount of their knowledge and experience and access to materials to my own work. But quite often at the end there's a moment where they say to me, this has been really interesting for me because it made me think about my own research differently, or it brought new perspectives to how I might, understand art. And I think those moments are really important. And I think culturally we've divided so far into these silos of discipline-based knowledge that we sometimes forget to talk to one another. For the advancement of science, and also maybe for the social application of science, I think that art has a lot to offer in terms of helping us decide what directions we want to go and why. And what does it mean? You know, we're sort of at an interesting crux in terms of the biotechnological revolution, where we as a society have to decide. There's a distinction between what we can do and what we want to do, or why we want to do it, or what direction we want to take these technologies. And I'm not sure that science alone can answer those questions.